Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, Bert Rutan receives a well-deserved NAA honor, Airbus and Bombardier talks are over, New Zealand pilot saved a life but has a lot to lose. I'm Bree Cross. It is October 9th, 2015, and this is Airborne Unlimited. The National Aeronautic Association has announced that Burt Rutan has been selected as the recipient of the 2015 Wright Brothers Memorial Trophy. Established by NAA in 1948 to honor the memory of Orville and Wilbur Wright, the trophy is awarded annually to a living American for significant public service of enduring value to aviation in the United States. Jim Albaugh, chairman of NAA, said, quote, "For 40 years, Burt has been one of the giants in aerospace development and engineering. So much of his work has had an impact on aircraft design and performance, and he is very worthy of one of the most important awards in aviation," end quote. His contributions have ranged from designing small aircraft intended for hobbyist home builders to complex spacecraft that set the stage for private enterprise space travel. We at ANN congratulate our friend Burt Rutan for being recognized by the NAA, and we thank him for allowing us to be there as he accomplished some of his greatest achievements. The award will be presented at the Aero Club of Washington's Wright Memorial Dinner on Friday, December 11th. In an effort to improve the potential of bringing their C-Series airliner to the market, Bombardier reportedly approached Airbus about investing in the airplane to the point of having a controlling stake in the single-aisle jet. But shortly after those talks became public, Airbus bowed out of the discussions, leaving Bombardier with few options. Both sides acknowledged the discussions. In a statement posted on its website, Airbus Group confirmed that it, quote, has been exploring business opportunities with Canada-based Bombardier, and that such discussions are no longer being pursued, end quote. Bombardier issued a similar statement. Bombardier has 243 firm orders for the C-Series airliner, but did not win any new orders at the Paris Air Show this year. It's reported the company had hoped for 300 firm orders by the time the first airplane is scheduled to be delivered in 2016. After the break, New Zealand pilot faces penalties after a rescue flight.
The KSN 770 is an affordable, WAAS-enabled integrated MFD with a flexible hybrid user interface from Bendix King. Get your fingers on the 770's perfect blend of touchscreen and hard buttons. Easily control your GPS navigation, Navcom, weather, traffic, and terrain in any condition. For more information, go to bendixking.com.
Redbird is quickly becoming the industry standard for flight training. Since Redbird introduced its revolutionary FMX in 2007, colleges, universities, and flight training operations around the world have integrated Redbird products into their curriculum. It's time to discover what Redbird can do for you. Join the migration.
AML's patent-pending wireless induction charging system eliminates confusion over those charging cables, cuts down cockpit cable clutter, and allows you and your passengers to fly cordless and eliminate the cable nightmare. www.aviationmodificationleaders.com.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Welcome back. If you would like to be a supporter of Airborne Unlimited, send an email to jim@aero-news.net. A New Zealand helicopter pilot hailed as a hero for dramatic rescue is facing jail time for flying the search and rescue mission while his pilot certificate was suspended. The person he rescued says he owes his life to the aviator. The incident occurred on April 5, 2014. According to David Armstrong, the director of the Kaikoura Helicopters, a man who suffered from a broken leg was trapped on the ledge of a 150-foot bluff in a remote area. The first helicopter sent to conduct a search and rescue turned back due to low fuel, so Armstrong, who did not have a valid medical certificate at the time, took off as an advisor to his co-pilot. However, the less experienced pilot needed help, so Armstrong took over. The rescue was a success. Armstrong has been charged with breach of the Civil Aviation Act for performing search and rescue flights without a current medical certificate and faces a maximum penalty of 12 months in jail or a $10,000 fine. The rescued man has written to the New Zealand CAA in support of Armstrong. It's Friday, and that means that it's time for ANN CEO and Editor-in-Chief Jim Campbell to check in with his weekly barnstorming commentary. In today's barnstorming, Jim sees a striking similarity between the FAA versus Bob Hoover and the fines levied by the FAA against the Skypan commercial UAV company. Here is this week's barnstorming.
Thanks, Bree, and hi, folks. Let's keep this short and sweet. In the process of working on the Bob Hoover documentary over the last couple of weeks, the details of that have been pounded into my brain pretty heavily, even more so than they were 20 years ago when I wrote the book. But in light of a recent legal skirmish between the FAA and a company called Skypan, well, the similarities were just too great to ignore. Let's kind of look at this briefly. Bob Hoover was the victim of a good old-fashioned FAA hit when a couple of inspectors tried to claim that his flying wasn't up to par. He was being non-sociable, and other people were remarking that Bob wasn't himself. Over the course of 33 more air shows, I mean, this wasn't something that was acted upon immediately. If there was a great danger to the public, they sure took their own sweet time about it. But to make an exceedingly long story short, after 33 air shows, they went after Bob. And they used that period of time to research, to get behind the scenes, and do whatever they had to do to get Bob. Now we see the Skypan scenario, and while we've only had a few days to look at it, Skypan is a company that has, well, sued the FAA to try to force the situation to allow Skypan and other operators to work under a clear set of guidelines and rules that the FAA has the right to actually work within. Up until then, well, they just didn't exist. So at any rate, the FAA has put out a good old-fashioned hit on Skypan. $1.9 million. The largest one before that was barely $10,000, $20,000 and in bits and pieces, and in many cases, larger fines have been whittled down. You get the general idea. But this is for a period of time between a sequence in 2012 and a sequence in 2014, during which the FAA did a tremendous amount of research, subpoenas, the like, calling their customers, looking at everything they did, their photography, their website, so forth and so on. And they spent a couple of years making sure that when they decided to put the hit in, that it stuck. The FAA, to a certain extent, went after Bob because a 70-plus-year-old airshow pilot certainly made the then age 60 rule look stupid. Now, Skypan, working hard, doing some very high-end commercial UAV photography and videography, is now the victim of a hit because, well, they're doing a great job. They're doing some tremendous stuff. They sued the FAA to force a reasonable amount of regulation and clarification of what existed then and what needs to exist in the future. And, well, they embarrassed the FAA again. Can you see the similarities? Don't embarrass the FAA. Don't try to tell the FAA how to do things. The FAA is the God in our universe, and if you don't believe it, they'll prove it. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne, and Aero-TV, I'm Jim Campbell, and I'm still counting the similarities.
After these messages, aircraft carriers are upgraded for the F-35.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Now certified, Aspen Avionics single-band ADS-B, ATX-100, and ATX-100G transceivers are the next-gen ADS-B solution that provides the features pilots need while keeping flyaway costs low. Check it out now at aspenavionics.com.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Welcome back. With so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we're summarizing some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. While the next generation aircraft, the F-35C, is going through its development test phase, Nimitz-class aircraft carriers are making modifications. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, which is currently hosting the Navy's newest warplane, began these upgrades while still in the shipyard. According to a survey, 87% of frequent flyers think that the Transportation Security Administration is doing either a poor or fair job in performing security screenings at the nation's airports. Put on your rose-colored glasses. 10.2% thinks that it's doing a good job. UAS Drone Corporation, a developer of unmanned aerial vehicles for the law enforcement and first responder market, has commenced its initial public offering of its common stock. The offering is being conducted by the company through the Fundable.com equity crowdfunding platform. Finnair has taken delivery of the first of 19 A350 XWBs on order. This makes them the first European operator and the third carrier worldwide to operate the new airliner. Finnair began service with their new aircraft this week. Now comes our Don't Try This at Home report. A British man has taken the multi-rotor copter concept to a new extreme. He has taken 54 electric motors, which are 18-inch rotors, and built an aircraft he can fly. He dubbed the aircraft the Swarm. Well, that's our trip around the patch. Now let's move on to the rest of the news. Earlier this week, we reported that the FAA was proposing a $1.9 million fine against Chicago-based UAV photography company Skypan International. This is the largest fine ever imposed against a UAV operator. However, Skypan is one of several companies that is involved in a lawsuit against the FAA that holds the agency cannot make UAV operations illegal in the absence of formal small UAV regulations. The FAA's congressionally mandated deadline for such regulations came and went on September 30th. And the website motherboardvice.com reports that Skypan currently holds a Section 333 exemption for commercial UAV operation that was granted in April of this year. The FAA action against Skypan is based on their claims that Skypan operated in highly congested airspace 65 times without authorization prior to receiving the exemption. The FAA says, quote, "These operations were illegal and not without risk," end quote. We expect to see some interesting twists and turns as this case progresses, and we'll keep you posted. Well, that's our program for today. Remember to get comprehensive real-time 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Remember that Airborne Unlimited is streamed daily Monday through Friday with additional breaking news bulletins for important stories that fall outside of our normal deadlines. Please join us and a growing roster of over 100 outstanding industry associations and organizations every weekday for the best in aviation and aerospace news from the staff of the Aero-News Network, the aviation world's most comprehensive news and information resource. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on Monday.